Now, in regard to values and the effect of light on three-dimensional subjects, let's look at some two-dimensional flat shapes and see what happens when light is added. In this case, we have a circle with a local color of a medium orange. To create the illusion of three-dimensional depth, light must be added, a directional light, in this case coming from the upper right-hand corner. The light burns out the local color, making it 2 or 3 steps lighter. As the object turns from the direct light, we see a halftone or a middle tone created, which is actually much closer to what the local original color was. The shadow that is created as the object turns away from the main light or the direct light source is called the form shadow because it's created actually on the form itself. Now we have a light, a middle or halftone, and a shadow area. With these 3 elements or values, we can create the illusion of 3 dimensions, whether painting trees or painting the human face. A cast shadow is created by the object blocking the light from the direct light source. This creates the cast shadow that is the darkest shadow in most images. This cast shadow is usually darkest where it touches the object and gets lighter as it recedes from the object, depending on how much ambient light there is. The edges of cast shadows are usually very hard, and certainly harder than the form shadow edges. It's very important to keep this distinction between form and cast shadows because they do so much to delineate the actual modeling and shape of the object. While the light and the shadow that we've seen so far goes a long ways to creating a 3-dimensional effect, the next thing, which is called bounce light, is one of the most important. It's the light bouncing off other objects in the scene, reflecting into the form shadow of the object. The darker strip revealed by the bounce shadow, which is between the bounce shadow and the middle tone, is what we call the core shadow. Of all the elements we've just talked about, this core shadow can be the most important element that depicts the 3-dimensional modeling of the form. Depending on the reflectivity or texture of the surface of the object, there will frequently be a highlight area. This is not the light area that we've talked about, but the area that's actually reflecting the light source. One last word about the bounce light. It's generally affected by the actual local color of what the light is bouncing off of. In this case, the wall is bouncing blue light into the red shadow area, creating a purple bounce effect. All of the lighting effects we've just talked about exist in every scene where there's any kind of direct lighting, whether it's landscape, still life, or portraiture, and you need to look for them and use them, even exaggerate them sometimes to create the illusion of a convincing 3 dimensions. For example, here is a pastel portrait of Jennifer. We can see that there is clearly a light area, a middle or halftone area, and a shadow area. Notice the softness of the edge of the form shadow as her right cheek turns away from the direct light. This is in contrast to the cast shadow across her cheek that is cast from the bridge of her nose. This cast shadow will always have a harder edge than the form shadow we see on her cheek. The shadow on Jennifer's right cheek works well, but look what happens when we add a secondary light that creates a bounce effect, giving shape to the jaw. This secondary light or bounce light effect creates a core shadow that gives more dimension to Jennifer's entire face. The artist needs to look for these lighting effects in every feature of the face, whether it's the nose, the lips, the eyes, or the forehead. Every one of these elements will be at work and in a certain proportion that will create a believable and authentic looking portrait or any kind of painting, whether it's landscape or still life. These elements will help create a convincing painting.